And hello, everybody. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you live as we cross into the 9 o'clock hour Central Time. We have an update for you on Hurricane Milton, now a Category 5 storm, and record strength is what it is approaching. And as we head into the overnight hours, we're expecting it to intensify. I'll have details on that. We'll talk about the Aurora, which is happening now, northern lights in the northern plains, and your forecast. It's all next on Hutch's Weather.
Now, a Hutch's Weather Update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
We're going to start right away with the headline nationally. As you can see, most of the nation heading into the nighttime pretty quiet. We do have an approaching system in the Pacific Northwest. All eyes are really on what is going on in the Gulf of Mexico. Through the last really 12 hours, Hurricane Milton has intensified from a Category 2 to a Category 4 and now a Category 5 storm as it works its way through the Gulf of Mexico and is forecast to impact portions of western Florida, the Gulf side of Florida, and then cross the peninsula, crossing over the central portion of the peninsula. But as we take a look at the latest, let's go ahead and get that information out to you first and foremost. As we take a look at the latest measurement, this was at the 7 o'clock hour. There'll be another one that will be done at 1 a.m. But for this time being, we have winds that are sustained at 173 miles per hour, gusts of over 200 miles per hour with this storm, and the storm expanding and moving off to the east at a clip of about 10 miles per hour. So this storm is working its way through the Gulf of Mexico and is expected to turn to the north now. What you're looking at, these circles depict hurricane force winds everywhere. How far out do the hurricane force winds go outside of the eye? This describes that for us in the pink circle. That's the hurricane force winds, 74 miles per hour or greater. Tropical storm force winds in that secondary circle. Here's a couple of things to keep in mind. This storm is huge. It's not only very strong near the center of the eye right now as we head to bed on this Monday night, but what is going to take place is the area of the tropical storm and hurricane force winds being so great will drive storm surge and impacts as this storm system works its way towards the Florida coast. Now, here's a look at where we are seeing this storm move. Now, the center line that you see here is the official National Hurricane Center forecast. Still expected by the time we get to, that looks like the 1 a.m. time frame this morning, a Category 5 at that particular time. And then we continue to see the storm work its way to the north and to the east towards the Gulf Coast of Florida, which is right here, and still remain a Category 5 storm. But notice this, the aerial expansion of both the hurricane and tropical storm force winds with this storm as it approaches the west coast of Florida. Now, the storm at this particular time is expected to weaken a bit as it makes its way toward the landfall. Do not be mistaken, though, it's still capable and likely will be capable of catastrophic damage. As these storms work their way through, a couple of things to keep in mind. We're going to zoom in just a little bit and then I'll show you this hour by hour forecast, and we'll get to your forecast here in just one moment. As the storm system circulates in this counterclockwise fashion, as it moves towards the expected target, wherever it may be, wherever it makes landfall, at the eye of the hurricane and points south. So in this example, just south of Tampa Bay, at the eye of the hurricane, so Sarasota, Florida, what we will have are winds that will be coming at you from the ocean. So from the south and from the west. Now, up north of the area it makes landfall, those winds will be offshore. And that will help to battle some of the height of the storm surge, the height of the wall of waves and water that work their way inland that can make the damage from these storms so catastrophic and can expand that damage from well beyond the coastline across the peninsula. That said, that storm surge is expected to be greatest from around Tampa and point south, where you see this onshore flow, the movement of the storm, all adding to the problem. We are expecting 10 to 15 foot storm surge with this particular storm, and that's as of now. Now, as we back off, and let me go ahead and turn off my telestration here, I will go ahead and we'll pull off some of these forecast cones for you here, and we're going to take a look at what we are expecting with regards to Well, the exact track of the storm. So what you're looking at in the background there is the model. So I'll go ahead and turn off some of these products. Let me leave on that cone though. That's important. Now, as we go through, let's see if I can turn down the forecast radii as well of the wind radii. Okay, so here we go. Now we've cleaned this up. Now we'll turn the cone back on so we can see what the forecast shows. And this is the expected track. Now this will get updated as we go through, as we get a little bit closer in time. This will be fine-tuned. But make no mistake about it, the west coast of Florida is under the gun. This storm system will continue to trek its way east as we go towards the 10 p.m. time frame on Tuesday. It's still well off the shore, but the impacts will begin to be felt at coastal Florida locations. Now, as we head through the remainder of the overnight hours on your Tuesday, this is when the storm will approach the coast. So now we're Wednesday in the afternoon, and this is where things really get going. Notice the heavy rain bands on the north side of the storm extending all the way out in these other bands. And there is the eye of the storm approaching the Tampa area. Zooming in a little closer, let's go ahead and tilt this so we can see the breadth of the impact of the storm as it works its way in. And again, this is one model's projection, and many models do have some different solutions, but only subtly. Now, as we carry this through, landfall would be, according to this model, in the overnight hours from late Wednesday and into the early morning hours on Thursday. And it crosses the peninsula fairly quickly, but the impacts will be felt for at least 24 hours on the peninsula of Florida. So that storm system will continue to work its way through to the east, working its way over Orlando, and then crossing off into the Atlantic as we go into the nighttime hours, the late afternoon and nighttime hours of the Thursday time frame. So that is a look at one model's rendition of the forecast. I will put up what's called the spaghetti plot real quick and allow you to see some of the different solutions. And notice this, there are some outliers that we see here that say, well, the calculations we are making showing that track. But you notice a convergence of many of the models right here, bringing this into the west central Gulf Coast of Florida. Sarasota looks to be the target location at this particular early, and I stress early stage of the game. The exact location of this matters very little. What we want you to pay attention to is the fact that this storm will be huge and impact a very large area with hurricane force winds, tropical storm force winds, and you guessed it, flooding and that storm surge as well. Flooding rains, we're talking 5 on the low side to 15 inches of rainfall expected from this storm system as of the current forecast from the National Hurricane Center. So that is a look at the hurricane update. We'll get back to that in a minute, but what I do want to point out are two things with regards to the strength of this system as the nation prays for Florida with regards to this storm system. It is a Category 5 right now. Catastrophic damage would be likely. Category 5 is sustained winds of 157 miles per hour or greater. And this storm system is well above that category at this time. So gusts are over 200 miles per hour from this particular storm, and they extend out from the storm circle for dozens of miles. So no matter if this storm makes landfall as a 5 or a 3, those are all devastating to catastrophic and damage all major hurricanes and will be significant in its impacts as it makes its way toward the Gulf Coast of Florida. So that is a look at the Saffir-Simpson scale. Take a look at this. Now, when we go back in history, the National Weather Service in Columbia, South Carolina put this together. They have looked at some past storms in the Atlantic, some record level storms, and top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 storms. Look at where Milton sat earlier today at a low pressure of 897 millibars. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th on the all-time Atlantic storm scale, but it's number 2, only behind Rita in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is only by 2 millibars of pressure, which is a fairly low amount, below the strength or the depth of the low pressure that Hurricane Rita caused almost 20 years ago. So this is a dangerous storm, and this gives us some precedence to some of the historical things that have happened in both the Gulf and the Atlantic ocean. So that is a look at that storm system. Now let me take you back to the forecast here, and we'll get to the northern plains where we do have some concerns in the weather up here, because we're not worried about tropical weather. We have a chance for some freezing weather in the northern plains. So we're going to sneak our way up to the north. Let me turn off some of these products here, and we will take a look at the current temperatures now across the northern plains. And what you will notice is we have 50s and even 40s, but already in the 30s as we look out towards International Falls, Minnesota. It is cold and we're not far from freezing already. And the National Weather Service says, well, we got us a frost advisory. Yeah, that's right. Cover your pickles, cover your, well, I don't think you need to worry about covering those pumpkins, but your tomatoes, you may want to cover them. Bring in those potted plants. Temperatures in the Arrowhead of Minnesota, I do think stand to see freezing in some areas, but the rest of us have a great chance at frost. This is Roseau. This is Thief River Falls. This is Red Lake Falls. This is Bemidji. So Paul Bunyan, you know what? That flannel, just go ahead and keep it on. You may want to make sure the windows aren't open too much because the 30s are on their way for many up in the northern plains tonight. So that is a look at that, and a little reminder to all of you watching from the northern plains. Hey, I am very excited to announce my friends at Luther Family Ford are proudly presenting Hutch's Weather Kids, and I need you. Got a lot of folks signing up, but would you kids like to help me figure out all of this wild weather? We'll do it on the big screen. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I just need you to swing into Luther Family Ford during normal business hours. Sign up to be a weather kid today, or you can go to Hutch's Weather website, hutchesweather.com. Go there, scroll to the bottom, you'll find the button, and I'd love to see you. If you get drawn, well, we'll give you the dates and times and details, but it's going to be a blast, and I cannot wait to get started as we move through the rest of the period. Now, let's take a look at our forecast here as we go through the overnight hours here in the northern plains. We do have a chance in the long range of some rain in the forecast, but let's get to what's going on right now. We do have temperatures that will be coldest in northern Minnesota, and we are talking about some low to mid 30s in the Arrowhead of Minnesota. That will extend out into central Minnesota, where we'll have some 30s in Badette and Lake of the Woods area, south through Red Lake. So if you're in Washkish and you're right on the shores of any of these big lakes, a lower chance of seeing the temperatures get as cold. Same thing for you off the shores of Lake Bemidji, but temperatures will be sneaking into the 30s in Red Lake Falls, Thief River Falls, Grigla, all the way through, and we're talking Greenbush, Minnesota, as well as you folks in Kennedy and Grand Forks, seeing a few 30s out there. A little milder out to the west with only light winds in the forecast. And then for your Tuesday afternoon, the heat is on out west. We're talking some 80s there. 70s in the orange patch here. I hear some stars being thrown Hutch's way on my Facebook channel. And as always, it's a two-way street with Hutch's Weather. Drop a comment. Have you ever experienced hurricane level winds? If so, drop a line and let me know about it in the comments below. Have you ever experienced temperatures cold? Are you ready for the cold in the northern plains? All right, here's a look at the temperatures in the afternoon. We're looking in the Arrowhead of Minnesota. Remember, you're starting from a pretty low threshold in those 30s, and we only make it to the mid 50s in places like St. Louis County. As we go out into the central part of the state, we're talking mid 60s, and Fargo-Moorhead expects 72 degrees for your afternoon. Now, as we take a look at the forecast moving forward, we do have a chance at seeing some rain here in the dry northern plains. Things have gotten dry and they continue to get drier. But first, before I get to that, I do want to point this out. I have word that the northern lights are out, and so many of you have shared photos with me to hutchesweather.com through the photo uploads part of the page. Go to hutchesweather.com. Last night, absolutely stunning and beautiful lights out there. Look at the fall colors here in Minnesota as well. They are peaking across parts in the central parts of the state. Visit hutchesweather.com, upload your photos today, and my friends at the University of North Dakota, that's right, the University of North Dakota, operate a camera, an Aurora camera, and it's showing a little bit of green on it still. It was showing that earlier. Let me see if I can pop that up here on the page for you and share it with you right now. All right, let's see. There you go. This is live from the University of North Dakota's Department of Physics and Astrophysics. And this, well, is in partnership with other Northern Lights watchers out there. And I got to tell you, check it out. There is that green hue to the atmosphere tonight, and that is the northern lights. So if you missed it last night, get out, and if you by chance have a chance to snap yourself a picture, a photo of this whole event, please, by all stretch of the imagination, upload that to hutchesweather.com. Now, what I want to do here is load up a look at the forecast, and that's loading up. And while it is, I'm going to show you the 7-day forecast, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the model here in the Northern Plains about your next chance of rain. Will it be widespread? You know, there's a saying in meteorology, never forecast rain in a drought, and that's a very wise thing because the air is dry, the ground is dry. The drier the air is over our area, the raindrops tend to evaporate before they even make their way down to the ground. So here's the 7-day planner as promised. Let's take a look at this. Temperatures will be warming as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at this, near record highs. So we're going from frost tomorrow morning in central Minnesota and parts of northern Minnesota. We'll have 30s all the way into the 80s. And your record in Fargo, 86 degrees. That's the record for Thursday. We're going to kiss it. It's going to be close, but I'm keeping it a little bit lower. A system works its way through Friday, bringing us north winds. We drop it back into the 60s for Friday. The best chance of rain will be on Saturday. It looks like mainly north and east. I'll show you why here in just a minute. And then as we go through the weekend with temperatures only in the 60s, woo-wee, we got that flannel weather in the forecast for Sunday. 38 degrees in the morning. Again, a chance for a few areas to get frost. If you haven't seen it yet, there's another chance coming. Look at Monday. Look again at Monday. Yeah, 33. That's unbalmy weather right there. That's what we're seeing. Ooh, the Aurorasaurus and the UND astrophysics camera really glowing right now. And it looks like the green is so bright, it's shining through the clouds. Let me show you one more time. I just can't believe it. Check it out. You see the cloud layer there? And the green is just rocketing through. Check out that. Isn't that beautiful? So even though we have some clouds moving through, the northern lights are visible there. Not as many clouds in other parts of the state. Let's get right to your forecast now as we take a look. What is this? This doesn't look like the forecast I was looking for. Let me clear that out. I apologize for this. Sometimes I'm loading up data here and it's not the layer that I'm looking for. So let's go here and let's go here. Pardon me. Thank you so very much for being patient with me while I take a look at this. Okay, now here, and let's go out at least to about the weekend. And now let's ask it to please load this time while we enjoy the northern lights. Okay, so while this data loads up again, and I'm sorry for the delay, it's going to be dry. And as you saw in the 7-day planner, things are looking pretty quiet. I'm going to peruse right now, right on over and take a peek at some of the questions that you may be having right now regarding the weather. That's one of the fun things. And I will get to that hour by hour rain chance for the weekend ahead. All right, let's see who's watching. Thanks so much for everyone who's contributed by donating stars and helping to support Hutch. It is a great thing to do. Good evening to you, Kathy. Thanks for watching from Comstock. Tiffany, thanks for all your pictures that you've uploaded over the months and years as well. Val, good to have you on board. Jenny, thank you for your stars. I do appreciate that very much. And thank you for all that you do, Marvin, and your accolades from Cavalier as well. Let me check and see also with you folks on the national channel there on Hutch's Weather on YouTube. And let's see if we've got any there. Whoa, we got a few watching from Orlando. Thanks for covering this. Thank you very much for your appreciation of that. If you do have specific questions about your area, I can stay a little longer and get into that. This storm system is a ways out. We can do some more diving deep into that storm. Again, Deb, thanks for watching. I appreciate you as well. Watching on the YouTube channel. So drop a comment on there. Let me know what you're watching on. Are you watching on your mobile device? Or do you have it streaming onto your television set and watching me? Because on YouTube, I stream, baby, in 1080i. So I shouldn't be too pixelated. I know I don't look that pretty, but at least it'll be pixelated. All right. Will Comstock have any chance of rain? Tiffany, great question. Let's get to that forecast right now, hour by hour style. Now, two things to say. The farther out in time we go, the lower our confidence is. We haven't had appreciable rain in our area for a long time. And because of that, the chance of rains that have been showing up at best have been just spits, right? So our chance of rain isn't great, and it does not look too heavy to me at this particular time. Tiffany's watching on mobile. Thank you very much. Isn't it nice to take Hutch around on your cell phone here and keep up with the latest on the weather? All right, let's take a look at this hour by hour forecast. And what you're going to notice here is still loading up, but we'll go ahead and take it back to tonight. So the time as we go towards Tuesday morning. Notice there's nothing on the future radar. We're not looking at clouds here. We're just looking at the radar, and things stay that way through Wednesday. And as we advance through time, here's Thursday morning, still nothing. It looks like one of them little weather wiggles that Hutch watches for in the southern prairies of Manitoba, working their way out of Regina and Saskatchewan and Saskatoon. Isn't that fun to say? Hi, Saskatoon. All right. Those showers will work their way eastward. I don't think too much of a big deal, but it does show that by late Thursday night and early Friday morning, a couple in the very far north could get a spit. Not a lot. A sprinkle. Okay. But I said the best chance on the 7-day, Hutch painted on Saturday, and here's why. A low pressure system will swing out of parts of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and as this one makes its way through, it will ride right along southern portions of the Canadian prairie. So as it does so from Saskatoon and Regina, notice it will have a little bit better chance at some more appreciable rain, more widespread showers, and not just green pixels. This is Saturday at 4 a.m. as we go through the mid-morning. Hi, Carrie, checking in from Gonvic. Good to have you here. As we take you in a closer look at this. Do we need rain in the oil patch? Yes. Terrible fires ravaging northwest parts of North Dakota, northeast parts of Montana, with gusts 90 miles per hour in Montana and better. As we went through the late weekend and on Sunday, we had gusts of over hurricane force in portions of northwest North Dakota. That drove fires. We had loss of life. We had loss of livestock. We had loss of equipment. We had loss of crops and a lot of damage from those fires. Yes, rain is needed. Look at this. This is what gives me some promise that we may be seeing something. 3 models show our area getting a chance of rain. It comes on Saturday as we go through the mid-morning hours, and it does look like the best chance will be north. To answer your question, Tiffany, if you're in Comstock, which is right down here, as you go down into Richland County and parts of Wilkin County, the chance is a little bit lower right now for anything too appreciable. As we, ooh, look at this. We can turn the earth. We can look. Is that cool or what? Let's look at Fargo all the way up to Roseau, and there's Foston with some rain, and Babe the Blue Ox gets a little shower. It's about time, babe. Not saying anything, but it was time. Time for a shower. Maybe we'll bring some soap with us next time, dearie. Okay, and then as we go to Langdon and up into the Kitson County area, some heavier showers. And again, this is Saturday morning through the midday hours. And again, Tiffany, mainly up north. My lawn in the Fargo-Moorhead area needs it. Valley City needs it. Jamestown needs it. All of the valley could really use some appreciable rainfall, but this one does look like the best chance will be up to the north. And that is your forecast update. So I'm checking in to see if we have any more comments here, questions or concerns, and it looks like we're in the all clear there. And again, I'll look on my national channel to see, because I'm honored that folks are checking in from Florida and from across the United States to check out the weather, and I welcome you to Hutch's Weather. My name is Hutch Johnson. I'm a meteorologist who's been broadcasting on the air and broadcast meteorologist for 27 plus years, and it's a lot of fun describing the weather. So I appreciate everybody checking in. Let's go back down toward that Milton area and see what's going on in the Gulf with the current situation. So back to Milton briefly for those of you that want to stick around. Do for those of you who are ready to check out and go check out those northern lights in the northern plains, real quickly, I remind you to upload your photos and videos of the northern lights or anything nature or anything weather to hutchesweather.com. Please take the time on Facebook to click the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would be honored if you pound the subscribe button there to get updates about when Hutch is going live. Okay, back to a look at the Milton area. Let's take a look at what the latest on the tracker information is. Again, it's Category 5. It's off the coast of Cancun. It is very strong. The latest wind measurements that we have available to us here showing that this Category 5 storm is working its way across and moving off to the east. See what the latest measurement is. East, and it's moving at about 10 miles per hour. 173 mile per hour winds were measured at the 7 o'clock hour. Your next measurement will come officially at 1. hurricane flights are being made through these. So the NOAA hurricane trackers, the research meteorologists fly through the eye of these storms. I did hear or see reports, so I'd have to say unconfirmed, as Milton's moving 10 miles per hour to the east, that in the eye of the storm, there are numerous flocks of birds seeking refuge from this storm by riding it out in the eye. And I hope that they can escape and get out of its wrath safely. But it's going to continue its way off towards the coast of Florida. How far away is it? Let's get you a linear distance right now. On the latest update from Tampa, this storm sits, well, right there. Tampa St. Pete is about 630.3 miles away from the eye of this storm. And right now, its motion is still easterly, and it's expected as we go through the overnight hours to start bending a little bit to the left of that path and head more northward toward West Fargo. I have seen a couple of indications that the landfall location may be a bit south of Tampa, but as I mentioned before, please do not worry about the precise location that this storm makes landfall, that these hurricanes are very large, that their storm surge, one of the number one threats with them, can expand inland for dozens and dozens of miles, and the winds that we showed you will eclipse much of the peninsula of Florida with at least tropical storm force winds near the landfall location of the storm. So that is a look at that. Let me take that line off of there. And now as we turn on once again the spaghetti plots, this is a great way to look at other models, all of the models that forecast the track of this storm from this location forward. And you see a lot of lines right here, and a lot of lines means several models agree that this will be the path of the storm. Now, why are there so many different solutions? Why can't all of these computer models come to one agreement? We don't necessarily want that, but each of these computer models is written with slightly different approaches to forecasting the weather. And a lot of it has to do with how it takes the incoming information and then and how it estimates what the temperatures must be in places that we have no data. Because you have to realize we're trying to forecast a pinpoint location. Where is this storm going to make landfall? Where are the greatest impacts going to be felt? And we're only inputting data from buoys and locations that are well away from the storm and really are, in some cases, 100 or more miles apart. So it really does get difficult to do a pinpoint forecast, particularly beyond 24 to 36 hours, with a lot of confidence in its accuracy. What we can say is that there is a high level of confidence that the west central coast of Florida on the Gulf Coast side, not far from Tampa, is where most models are seeming to converge on a solution. Some have it a little north of Sarasota, some have it a little south. Make no mistake about it. It just doesn't matter where it makes landfall. With regards to the impacts of the storm, they will be felt north, but they will be felt even greater south of where it makes impact. So that is a look at that. Stu, thank you for your question. Stu says, F-type Stu, would you ever go on one of those hurricane flights? That would be intense. Stu, in my early days of meteorology, I did not fly a hurricane. I was scheduled to do some. I was a research meteorologist working for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, flying on NASA aircraft and studying the atmosphere. Now, we used lasers to track the atmosphere, laser radars called Doppler lidars, and we measured winds across the globe with that instrumentation. And I was a part for a few years of some of those projects. Amazing technology, and my hats go off to all at the National Hurricane Center and all in research meteorology who fly through these storms. And I can tell you this, I flew in some moderately choppy air and in some of the research that we did, and I was running for the puke bag. The barf bag was overused by Hutch Johnson. I didn't puke a lot, but I wasn't feeling good. I was pretty squeamish, and that's because the planes are just rocking around. So again, they are putting their lives on the line to get measurements, and those measurements are important. Without them, they can fly over the storm, and they use an instrument called a drop sonde. Okay, so I'm going to use some high technology here. Okay, we'll use this bag. Here's a dropson falling out of the butt of an airplane, and it goes down into the eye of the storm. And as it falls down, this dropson has measurement tools on it, instruments, and it's like a radio sonde or a weather balloon that rises up through the atmosphere, but a dropsonde sinks down through the atmosphere. And as that dropsonde falls down through the hurricane, it's measuring winds by being tracked. So the airplane is tracking, or satellites are tracking the location of that instrument as it goes down. And we can calculate the winds and how much wind it must have taken to move that dropsonde this way, that way, up, down. We can measure the winds. We can also measure the barometric pressure, which is huge. Okay. So pressures below 1,000 millibars are strong, but when we get down into the territory here where this storm is, and let me put this graphic up one more time. I have to look for it here because I think I put it away in my folder. Where'd you go? Okay, this is very interesting to me that we do have a hurricane now in Milton that has approached strengths that are comparable to Rita by only 2 millibars. It's below 900 millibars. Okay, so millibars is a unit of measure of pressure, and the standard pressure at the surface is about 1,013.25 millibars. 1,013. Now, pressure like this is more commonly found at altitudes not far from you folks in Denver, Colorado. So if you live in the high terrain of the Rocky Mountains, your barometric pressure every day is down around 900 millibars or so, depending on your elevation, some a little lower than that. So what's going on is the surface pressure developed and created by this hurricane has dropped, and it's as if you live at elevation. The pressure has dropped so much. And pressure, folks, is what moves the air. Pressure is what makes the air want to blow from extremely high pressure toward low pressure. So the pressure inside an L or the hurricane is so low, all the air is rushing in to fill it at the surface. But aloft, and it rises through those thunderstorms, aloft, the air is diverging and actually is rotating in the opposite direction. Really cool to look at. Maybe we can look at that. So questions here. Connor says, I'm inland in Tampa. I got nothing from Helene. How bad do you think it'll be? Because I'm thinking it'll hit as a Cat 4. The forecast currently is strong Category 3 and possibly very close to Category 4. So your thinking, Connor, is not too far out of what the forecast models and what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. I encourage everybody to follow their local authorities' advice with regards to getting out. And here's why. This storm is an historic storm right now, but it's way out. Okay. It is expected to weaken, but there are a couple of models that are coming in, and we won't get those in their entirety, the ones that go out far enough to do the calculations till we get to Wednesday during the day and evening when this storm hits. That's a long time out. The closer we get, the more accurate they will be. So there will be some changes to this. And Connor, the National Hurricane Center does a fantastic job, and they did with Helene as well as it made its way northward. But it's not until the few days just prior to the storm, or a couple days prior to the storm, where we have a little bit better grasp on that. It's an historically strong storm right now. We've only seen one storm in the Gulf even close to this strength, and that was Rita. And this storm system is only 2 millibars of pressure difference from it. That's minuscule. The gusts are over 200 miles per hour, Connor. So those hurricane force winds, once it hits land, they tend to weaken. There's more friction over land with trees and buildings and structures to slow the wind down. But if you have gusts over 150 to 200 miles per hour, there will be catastrophic damage. So as we look at that Fujita scale that you are familiar with, Connor, if you live down in that area, the Fujita scale, anything above a Category 3 is basically a strong, not just a strong hurricane, but it's a devastating one in its ability to create havoc as it works its way through. So there are a lot of things for you folks to consider that live down in the Gulf. And on Tampa side, if it happens to slip south, the storm surge might not be as bad, but the winds will be terrible. And there are oftentimes tornadoes associated with this types of storms. And let me say this too. We experienced this with Helene, and we still experience this with Helene. The infrastructure damage that can be done by a storm like this could leave huge or widespread areas without water, without electricity, without roads, or ability to get to you for rescuers as well. And if a wall of water, I want you to think of this. If a wall of water that could be up to 15 feet high surges inland, even if you live 2-3 miles from the coast or more, a wall of water that's 15 feet high. Is your house 15 feet high? Can you seek refuge on the roof? Will your house withstand a wall of water moving that far inland? So it's really important that you take all of those things into consideration before you make your decision on what's best for you and your family. So thank you so very, very much for watching. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. If you've gotten something out of this broadcast, I sure appreciate you checking in by liking the video. Drop a comment here and let me know if you would like to see something different. Let me put the graphics back up behind me so we can see some of the right now details, and we'll look at the national weather elsewhere other than these places. We have some UP Peninsula of Michigan. Looks like some lightning going on up there in the big lake. Okay, so there's Lake Michigan on this side, and woo, we got some strong thunderstorms up there as we dive on in. So Sheboygan, you're okay, but as we go off toward the central part of the Great Lakes and the eastern Great Lakes region, we're starting to see some thunderstorms. Last night's big football game, if you happen to watch it in Pittsburgh, was just a wee bit late, and those Dallas football Cowboys went in there and really what an exciting game. But I wondered, why was it so late? Well, that storm system that moved through caused a delay in the game, and that is now offshore. Portions of Maine are still seeing the impacts of that particular storm. Very quiet weather across most of the East Coast, but just off the coast of British Columbia at Vancouver, there's another wave of energy working its way on. One of the cool things about seeing the data you're looking at here, by the way, this is radar data. Radars are on land, so we can't see the radar data that's going on out in the ocean. It's one of the reasons why we don't have great data with regards to radar from my U.S. locations here of what's going on off the coast of Cancun where the hurricane is. But what we can look at is satellite. Satellites in space can at least let us look at clouds and some of the weather there. So let's take a look at the infrared satellite, and now you can kind of see a little bit more with regards to the system making its way off the coast of Vancouver. This is the storm system that will be pushing along the northern tier and miss us to the north as we go into the late week in the northern plains. The one following it will have more impact, and that will bring us a chance. I'm saying there's a chance of some sprinkle drops here in the northern plains as we go through your Saturday. Otherwise, look how quiet most of North America is, and now we can really truly see Helene down as we look down into the Gulf Coast area, and you can certainly see the very, very well-defined eye of this storm. A couple of things to note. What are these colors? An infrared satellite. Those colors are indicative to temperature, the temperature of the clouds. So the colder the clouds are, the higher in the atmosphere they are. The warmer colors here, those are a little bit lower in the atmosphere. And do you recall me saying something to the tune of the rotation is in toward the center of low pressure at the surface for a hurricane, but aloft, those clouds rotate a different way. Sometimes you can see the circulations if we put this into motion. So here we go, it's loading up. And what you're seeing around the eye wall here is this counterclockwise circulation. But aloft, as we get way up high in this storm, up at the jet stream level, we're seeing some different things, aren't we? So as I put the telestrator on, you have air and winds that are converging on the center of this storm right here and moving in a counterclockwise fashion and inward toward the center of this low pressure. Now, what makes the eye of the storm crystal clear is the air in the eye of the storm is sinking, while all of these thunderstorms are producing rising air. The thunderstorms producing huge updrafts and carrying water into the upper levels of the atmosphere. When we get into the upper levels of the atmosphere, we get next to or closer to those jet stream levels, the subtropical jet, and those tend to carry the winds off in the opposite direction. See that? Look at this right out here. These clouds way up high, colder colors. Those clouds there are moving in an opposite direction. So for the information that you have in front of you, what we have going on right now is hurricane. This hurricane has a increasing size to the eye wall. Could be going through a little bit of a cycling process, but it sure looks like it's maintaining a very well-defined eye wall with very strong convection around the eye wall, very heavy rain bands and thunderstorm bands that you see here in those purplish hues. And sometimes these hurricanes can suck in or draw in a little bit drier air. Hard to believe that that can be true over the Gulf of Mexico, but that can indeed happen. Okay, my name is Hutch Johnson. I really appreciate you watching. We'll all be thinking of you in Florida. I'll be back with an update as we go into your day tomorrow. But for now, again, for those of you here in the Northern Plains, thank you for watching. Upload your photos at hutchesweather.com if you capture any of the northern lights, if you capture the fall beautiful colors around the area. Hey, if you're across the nation, head to hutchesweather.com. You can see the latest right there on all the colors going on in the great state of Minnesota and North Dakota as we head into our fall season up here. Follow me on Facebook, please, and consider subscribing on the YouTube channel. For now, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Until next time, stay tuned and please stay safe.